Whenever I walk on stage with one of these in my hands, people suddenly think I'm interesting. But the reason that I have one of these when I deliver speeches is exactly the same reason why I used to literally teach GCSE maths with one of these in my hands. I've got one of those autistic brains that functions better when my fingers are active. And I know the question you're probably asking, and the answer is 11.9 seconds because I'm a huge nerd. Right, I like nerds. Who here identifies as a nerd? Brilliant. I like nerds. Nerds are brilliant. Who here's autistic? Kidding, don't actually put your hands up. I wouldn't ask you to act yourselves like that. But why did I ask that question? Well, partly to make a point using the moment of surprise or maybe even shock that you might have felt when I asked that question out loud, because we're not supposed to ask questions like that, are we? Because unfortunately, it's so much easier to confess to being a nerd than it is to come out as being autistic. Now, why is that, I wonder? Might it be because it's 2025 and we're still attaching some kind of stigma to neurodivergence for some reason? Is it because autistic people like myself are supposed to be defined by our weaknesses rather than our strengths or even just our general characteristics? Well, the thing is, even though the world needs nerds, the world also needs neurodivergent people. And even though neurodivergent people have plenty of strengths, it's difficult to define yourselves by those strengths when everyone is obsessed with your weaknesses. So before I go into the specifics of making the workplace work, I've got two important bits of context. Now, the first one describes the difficulties that we're facing, and the other one describes the opportunities. So first off, the world is built with everyone else in mind. Now, a long time ago, in previous life actually, not literally, I used to be a primary school teacher. And have you ever seen a primary school? Well, presumably you have. Have you ever seen a primary school? Bright colours across all the walls because all children love bright, vibrant colours, right? And really loud noises in the playground because all children love making loud noises. And, oh, children, we've got a surprise for you this afternoon because all children love unexpected breaks from routine. All of them, no exceptions. And then you enter the workplace and then you realise that everything about the workplace, from the physical setup of the office to the casual office backstabbing that goes on, is designed with the neurotypical workforce in mind. Which unfortunately means if you've got one of those brains that processes things differently, learns differently, and prefers to do things differently, then you stand out, and not necessarily in a good way. But the good news is, and this has pretty much become my catchphrase as a speaker, human progress relies on diversity of thought. Now, imagine that you've got 10 people on a desert island and they've got 1 hour to build themselves a shelter before a storm rolls in. And, oh yeah, all 10 of these people have exactly the same brain. You may have 10 pairs of hands, presumably, but you're only looking at the problem from one perspective. You've probably only got one set of ideas. Now imagine the precise same scenario, but one of those people's neurotypical, one of them is autistic, one of them is dyslexic, one of them's got ADHD, and so on and so on. Suddenly, you are looking at the problem from 10 different perspectives. You might have 10 different sets of ideas. You could come up with 10 different methods for building that shelter, as long as people have the decency to listen to the people who think differently. So when I say human progress relies on diversity of thought, it's not some kind of woke nonsense or whatever. It is literally true from an evolutionary perspective. That is why neurodiversity exists. So how do you make the workplace work for neurodivergent employees? Well, as is tradition, I've got 3 insights to share with you. First off, let us use our own methods. I could spend all day talking about my frustrations as a teacher every time Ofsted came out with a new, improved, accredited, outstanding method that every single student without exception should use, regardless of how their brain accesses the learning. When I moved on and became a special education teacher, I used to tell my autistic teenagers that, look, outside of academia, and whenever you're approaching a problem by yourself, your brain is the only brain your methods need to make sense to. By the way, did you know I can blindfold solve 10 of these at the same time? I'm not joking. Give me 10 scrambled Rubik's Cubes, I'll memorise them, put on the blindfold, solve 10 Rubik's Cubes, take off the blindfold, 10 solved cubes. Isn't it a shame my autism is holding me back? Now, you're probably wondering how I do that. Well, it's easy. All you need to do is memorize the order in which you're swapping these tiles, assign letters to those tiles, A, B, C, D, and so on, make words out of those letters, and make stories out of those words, and set them in different places, because 10 different cubes means 20 different data strings. So set them in different places. I use the zones from Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 from the Mega Drive. So cube 1 is the Emerald Hill Zone. You don't understand a word I'm saying, do you? But that's okay, because I do. And my brain is the only brain my methods need to make sense to. So if you have a neurodivergent employee who needs to do things differently, trust us, we know what we're doing. Secondly, accommodate by default. There's something about the way we talk about accommodations that I just don't like. Either they're talked about in terms of being an inconvenience, or they're talked about as an act of kindness. Like, look at the efforts that we are going to accommodate this poor neurodivergent employee, whilst making no mention of how hard the neurodivergent employee has had to work to accommodate everyone else and do things everyone else's way. By the way, have any of you ever noticed that we only call them accommodations if we're providing them for people who are different? If your workplace already accommodates 90-ish% of the workforce because it was built to do so, the world is built with everyone else in mind, then we don't call that accommodations, we just call that normality. So the message I'd like to give to you is, if you've got a neurodivergent employee who needs some kind of workplace accommodation, be it physical or social or sensory, don't and ah about whether or not to provide it, just accommodate them with the same natural fluency that you are already accommodating everyone else. We are not after special treatment. We are after equality of opportunity and accessibility. And finally, listen to us. I mean, in all fairness, you're doing a brilliant job of that right now. But don't forget to listen to us as well. And why did I feel the need to add that bit at the end? Well, unfortunately, it's because subconscious biases can and do impact people like you and me, whether we like it or not, even if your heart is 100% in the right place. And what that means is sometimes we're not taken very, very seriously. Let me put it to you this way. Autistic people stereotypically are supposed to not know how to lie. I mean, I could talk about that for a while, but even if we assume that to be true, and we are absolutely 100% truth tellers, that doesn't magically mean we become good at being believed. Sometimes we might ask for an accommodation and the response might be, okay, but do they really need what they say they need? I mean, have they considered they might be exaggerating for dramatic effect? And no, we are not. Believe us, we know ourselves, we know what we're doing, listen to us and believe us. So to conclude, neurodivergent people can and do unfortunately struggle in the workplace, but we need to stop seeing that as a problem with neurodivergence. The exact same people could absolutely fly, again metaphorically, at work, and often it's a matter of how flexible you're prepared to be in terms of accommodating those of us who think differently and allow us to do things differently. And it's unfortunate that we talk so much about how different neurodivergent people are to everyone else without talking that much about the common ground. And one absolute piece of common ground we have is that when we're given an opportunity to play to our strengths, boy, can we play to our strengths. Thank you.